Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something, pretty personal. We're going to be tackling depression and negativity with your submitted materials. Ready to unpack all of this?
Absolutely. It's so interesting how these internal struggles can be the toughest.
Yeah.
Looks like we're looking at excerpts from Lupte Interioare by Lucien Marcel Rouget.
We're exploring Lupte Interioare, which translates to internal struggles. It's a very fitting title. I see it's rooted in Christian principles. And what jumped out to you first?
Well, one thing that is really interesting is how Marcel leads with this story of Elijah. He was this powerful prophet known for these incredible feats, but even he found himself in the depths of despair.
Okay, so right off the bat, Marcel is saying, look, anyone can struggle with this.
Right.
If Elijah, this biblical powerhouse, struggled with this, it's not about being superhumanly strong in your faith.
Right. And he was exhausted, isolated, afraid. These are common triggers for depression, even today, thousands of years later.
It's not just a me problem, it's like a human problem. We've all been kind of hardwired for these struggles.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of reassuring in a way. These feelings, they're part of the human experience. It's not a sign of weakness. It's part of the human story.
So if everyone, even biblical figures, can experience this, where do we go from there? How do we actually start tackling it?
Well, that's where it gets really fascinating. He goes into this idea that our weakness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our weakness is actually the perfect setup for God's strength to kind of shine through. He even brings in that quote from Paul, "When I am weak, then I am strong."
Okay, I have to admit, at first glance, that feels a little backwards.
Yeah.
Help me unpack this one.
Yeah. So think about it this way. How often are we told to toughen up? We need to rely on ourselves. But what if true strength comes from actually admitting that we can't always do it alone? That's what Marcel is saying here. It's about surrendering to a power beyond ourselves.
So relinquishing control and trusting in something bigger than us.
Exactly. Think about a time when you were at your wit's end and then, boom, out of the blue, someone just swoops in with exactly the support that you needed. You know that feeling, that unexpected rescue. That's kind of what we're talking about.
And on that note, you highlighted a whole section about prayer. Where does reaching out to others fit into all of this?
Yeah, Marcel is very intentional about this. So he says when we're feeling depressed, it's tempting to isolate ourselves. We push everyone away. But he's emphasizing prayer, but also human connection as crucial antidotes to that.
So it's kind of two sides of the same coin, reaching out to a higher power, but also reaching out to the people in our lives.
Yeah. Precisely. And look at this. You even marked this specific prayer in the chapter. And it's really beautiful because it's about directly asking God for help with this pain.
It's so powerful. Instead of pretending like we're not struggling, we can just bring those raw emotions to God. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. And that's huge because it reminds us that, we're never truly alone in our struggles. There's always someone there to listen. It's not so much a script as it is a raw, heartfelt expression of what it means to reach out for help. The prayer goes, "God, you understand my pain better than anyone. Please give me the strength to keep going. Every hidden corner of my soul and the burdens I carry, I trust you to bring healing and peace to my heart."
Wow. It's so simple, but there's such a depth of feeling in those words. You can almost feel the weight of what's not being said,
Exactly. It perfectly captures that feeling of being overwhelmed and needing something beyond ourselves to help us through.
Yeah. Speaking of not being alone, this one chapter really caught my eye. Only you know. It sounds like it's about those burdens that we carry secretly.
Exactly. And what's so insightful? He connects this to Psalm 139, where it talks about God knowing our every thought, even the ones that we keep hidden from absolutely everyone else.
It's like even when we feel most alone, like no one else could possibly understand, there's a force out there that sees us, that hears us, that knows us, completely. But what about actually healing? Where does that process even begin?
That's where Marcel, I think, really digs deep. He doesn't shy away from the tough stuff at all. You highlighted this quote here. Healing is not just for the body, but for the soul.
It reminds me of those times when I've tried to slap a Band-Aid on a problem and just pretend everything's fine, but deep down, I know there's still work to be done. This isn't about those quick fixes. It's about addressing the deeper wounds.
Exactly. And to illustrate this point, Marcel brings up Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Right.
He's about to face crucifixion. And even knowing his divine purpose, he still feels the full weight of that suffering.
That's a powerful image. It's easy to forget that, even Jesus, in all his divinity, still experienced the depths of human emotion, including pain and sorrow.
And I think that's incredibly comforting, don't you? I mean, if Jesus allowed himself to be vulnerable in that way, it gives us permission to do the same. It normalizes that experience.
Totally. It's like that saying, feelings are valid, even the messy ones. Okay, so we're not alone in this. We can pray, we can connect with others. But how do we move from that place of pain towards healing? Where do we even begin?
True healing begins internally. He uses this incredible image of a man who has been healed, and this man isn't just walking, he's leaping and praising God.
Okay, that's vivid. I can practically see it.
Healing isn't just about feeling better physically or emotionally. It's about a complete restoration, body, mind, and spirit. It's about embracing the fullness of life again.
It's like he's saying that healing isn't just about getting back to where you were before the struggle. It's about stepping into an even greater sense of wholeness and joy.
He's encouraging us to dare to dream again, especially after setbacks. And he uses Job as an example. I mean, talk about going through the ringer.
Job's story is a tough one. It makes you think, like, how much can one person take and still find the strength to keep going?
It's hard to even fathom. But even in that darkness, he clung to his faith. And the key takeaway here is that he eventually experienced restoration.
It's like those setbacks, they're not the end of the story, they're just plot twists, right? We have to keep turning the pages to see how it all unfolds.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes those detours, they lead us to something even more incredible than what we had planned. What about you? Have you put any dreams on hold lately?
You know, I have actually. Fear definitely keeps us small, keeps us safe, but it also keeps us from those big breakthroughs.
I hear that. I think we've all been there. It really is about finding the courage to hope again, to believe that something better is waiting for us.
Which is easier said than done, right? Especially if we've been through a lot. So how do we tap into that hope when we feel like we've run out? You know, that's where our connection to something bigger than ourselves comes in. Remember that idea of surrendering to a power beyond our own? When we can consciously choose to connect with that power, that source of love and grace and strength, it's like tapping into this wellspring of hope that never runs dry.
It's about surrendering that illusion of control.
Right.
And trusting that there's a greater plan unfolding. It's not passive, though. There's still action involved.
Exactly. It's about aligning our will with that higher power, becoming an active participant in our own healing journey. You know, sometimes the most courageous action we can take is surrendering control and placing our trust in something beyond ourselves.
I love that. It's not about sitting back and waiting for a miracle. It's about showing up, doing the work, and trusting that we're being guided every step of the way. Sometimes the smallest actions are the most powerful ones, right? It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And speaking of small steps, you know, Marcel also talks about finding healthy ways to process our emotions. It's not about bottling things up or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging those feelings.
Yeah, because burying things never really works, does it? It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes so much energy, and it's just going to pop back up eventually.
That's a great analogy. And he talks about things like journaling, spending time in nature, expressing yourself creatively, maybe even talking to a therapist. These are all tools, right? They help us process difficult emotions in a way that's actually healthy.
So it's about giving ourselves permission to feel what we feel without judgment, and then finding those healthy outlets.
Exactly. It's about creating space for healing to happen. And, you know, this is interesting. Marcel also talks about the importance of community. We weren't meant to go through life alone.
Sharing our burdens with others can really make them feel lighter.
Absolutely. And, you know, we were talking about prayer as a way of connecting with a higher power. But there's also something really powerful about praying with other people. It's that collective strength, that support. You know that you're not alone, that people are lifting you up.
It's that feeling of being surrounded by love and support, knowing that even when you're struggling, people are rooting for you.
Exactly. And, you know, it works both ways. Offering that support to others can be incredibly healing for us, too. It's a good reminder of our own strength and resilience, and it connects us to something larger than ourselves.
It's like they say, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Okay, we've covered a lot, but one more thing before we wrap up. Marcel talks about forgiveness, which feels like such a big topic, especially when we're hurting.
It is a big one, and it can be so challenging, but he really emphasizes that forgiveness is not about condoning someone else's actions. It's about freeing ourselves. It's about letting go of that bitterness and resentment that can keep us stuck.
So it's more about us than it is about them. It's about choosing to release the anger and the pain so that we can move on.
Precisely. And, you know, forgiveness isn't always like a one-time thing. It's often a daily choice that we make.
It's true. Some days are definitely harder than others, and some hurts just run deeper.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive on Lupte Interioare, is there one key takeaway you hope our listener will walk away with today?
You know, if there's one thing I hope they take away from Lupte Interioare, it's that even when we're in the middle of our struggles, even when we feel lost and alone, there's always hope.
Such a powerful message. It's not about denying the pain or pretending everything is okay. It's about choosing to believe that healing is possible, that joy is attainable, and that we are not alone.
Exactly. And one of the things I really appreciate about Marcel's approach is that he doesn't give these empty platitudes or quick fixes. He really acknowledges the complexity of our experiences, the reality of the struggles, and the importance of actually doing the work. And he gives you practical tools and strategies, right, for navigating those difficult emotions, for connecting with something bigger than ourselves, and then ultimately for creating a more fulfilling life.
Yeah, he really does. And he reminds us that healing is a journey. It's not like you just arrive at a destination. There are going to be ups and downs along the way, but the most important thing is to just keep moving forward, one step at a time.
That's such a good point. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And it's about celebrating those little victories along the way. So, from Elijah's exhaustion to Job's perseverance, this deep dive into Lupte Interioare has really highlighted how deeply connected faith can be to our mental and emotional well-being. It's not about ignoring the hard stuff, but facing it head on with God as our source of strength.
Beautifully put. And, it's not even about being strong all the time either. It's about recognizing when we need help, when we need to surrender those burdens and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. That's where true strength comes from.
You said it. Well, thank you so much for walking us through this today. It's been such an insightful journey through Ruja's work.
My pleasure. It's always rewarding to explore these topics and hopefully offer a little encouragement and hope along the way.
And to you listening, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this powerful thought directly from Lupte Interioare. You are not an accident. God created you with a divine purpose. Dare to hope for your future is in his hands.